New video, new ring light. Yeah, the other one broke. I had to replace it. But this one's better. Look at this shit. You can't tell, but it's red light. There we go. Onto the video. Welcome back to Uncle on the Internet. Okay, so tonight I'm at this vid and it's called Artists Whose Record Label Ruined Their Careers. If I had money for people this has happened to. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it's happened because there's some artists that I know about, so like TLC and Kesha, they might be on it. But there's probably going to be some more artists that I don't know about. I'm going to find out, so I'm just going to dive right in. Just out of curiosity. So without further ado, let's get to this reaction. So what is it, like bad contracts?
Record labels are notorious for signing artists to bad contracts, infringing on artists' creative freedom, and doing a number of other things to hurt artists' careers. Obviously, the objective of a record label is to help their artists blow up so the label can make as much money as possible, but it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes artists can get in really bad deals or situations where they are shelved, sued, or even bankrupted, and that can severely harm their careers. So today we are looking into artists whose record labels ruined their careers. Designer had a situation that I always felt kind of bad about because I felt like he had a lot more potential to have a longer career, and he also seems like a nice guy, so his label situation was unfortunate. Designer had been making music for a while and saw some buzz with his song Zombie Walk, but he first saw insane success after releasing his debut commercial single, Panda. He first released it on SoundCloud and then shortly after uploaded it to iTunes, and this song, as I'm sure you all know, was a huge hit.
Yeah,
this song was everywhere and was notable for its unique sound and Designer's very energetic ad-libs. He quickly caught the attention of Kanye West and Pusha T, who had just taken over as the president of Kanye's record label, Good Music. Designer was signed to Good Music in February of 2016 and was also featured on Kanye West's huge album, The Life of Pablo, on 2 different songs. Designer was blowing up, and he was blowing up quickly. Keep in mind that at this time, Designer was only 19 years old, which was bound to cause some stress and maybe even hinder some decisions.
It was like, damn, like everything is happening so fast. You feel me? Because I just put the record out probably like 4 weeks ago, and now I'm with Kanye, you feel me? And it was like, damn, like, you feel me? So everything kind of was moving real quick. It was fun, but then it started to cause anxiety. You know what I mean? To a point that it was like certain times I didn't know how to move because I wasn't used to having security guards and shit like that. You know what I mean? I was like, you feel me? I'm just a kid walking down the block, you know what I mean? I'm rapping with my homies. Me and my homies are security, you know what I mean? For each other, you know what I mean?
He was featured on the song Champions, the lead single from Good Music's compilation album that became pretty huge. He then became a XXL freshman in 2016, performed at the BET Awards, released his mixtape New English, and was even featured on Bill Nye's Netflix show. He also released his song Timmy Turner, which was his second hit song. However, after 2016, we wouldn't hear much from Designer. Designer released a handful of songs in 2017, but was seeing a steep decline in relevance. Meanwhile, in 2018, Kanye West was producing for and working with Good Music artists and affiliates, helping them create some really good music. He did so with Pusha T, Tiana Taylor, and Kid Cudi, who wasn't signed at the time, but he had been previously. A few other artists on the label were neglected, one of which was Designer. Designer said he was going to release an album, and he even mentioned releasing 2 albums, but all that came out in 2018 was an EP called LOD, or Life of Designer. His team even reached out to Pitchfork to emphasize the fact that it was just an EP, not an album. To me, that's pretty odd, and it makes me think that his label Good Music was mismanaging him in some sort of way, likely not allowing him to release music. And I don't think that's too far-fetched, as Kanye's label hasn't always had a good reputation. Despite all of the great artists and projects released under this label, it also has had many issues that are fairly public. Kanye himself...
I heard he also did... Was Tiana Taylor on this label as well? I think she was on this label. Yeah, I'm probably wrong about that, so don't even try and fact check me on that. But I heard that she was also done dirty as well. Bro. Kanye, what are you doing, bruv? What did you do?
Even said, running a record label was the biggest mistake I ever made. I never asked to be a label owner. Sony offered it to me and I took it. But I can't be there when people are calling me to the studio to hear some music or approve some clothes for a video. And it's pretty obvious that Designer experienced the aftermath of this mistake. Following the release of his EP in 2018, the next year Designer had expressed his discontent with his label. First, he ranted in a music video about how Kanye and his label weren't doing anything for him, and he even said that Kanye was crazy.
You think he's the genius, I niggas think all that nigga shit. But the me nigga, that nigga's crazy, nigga. And the me nigga, I've been doing shit by myself. To me, nigga, I brought good music back.
He then went on Twitter to say that he wanted to be released from his label. It was obvious that his label had been holding him back, and he hadn't released a single solo track throughout 2019. And judging by his output in recent years, that was because good music had put him on the back burner. Artists being shelved by their label is never a good thing, and Designer was clearly finding that out the hard way. Designer said in an interview that on multiple occasions he wanted to get into a room with Kanye to work on his music and get some pointers. He said the reason that he signed to Kanye's label was to work with Kanye. It seemed like Designer just wanted a mentor in the game, as he was still pretty young at 22 years old. Regardless, after he requested to be taken off of the Good Music record label, he was released in late 2019. Also, another really odd thing about this situation is that an album called F Good was leaked onto SoundCloud, featuring 23 Designer songs with features from tons of popular artists. This led to many people thinking this was the album that Good Music wouldn't let Designer release, so he leaked it to spite them. Whether or not that's true, Designer was clearly excited to be released from his label.
I can drop anywhere, any second. This is the dream of every artist. This is the dream of every artist. Any second, any time, I get the bag out here, and I'm still touring, I'm still doing my thing. No label behind me right now. This is beautiful.
In 2020, Designer did an interview with Everyday Struggle, further explaining his situation to DJ Academics. He had also told Vlad TV and others that the only reason he left Good Music was because of issues with his dad going into a coma, and that may have played a role in it, but based on everything else he said in his output of music, I'm going to assume that was a little bit of an excuse just to keep things on better terms with the label. After his separation from Good Music, Designer's output increased a ton, which made it obvious that Good Music was hurting his career. However, the damage had already been done. Since he was unable to release much music in the late 2010s, his streams and views went down a ton. And of course, there are other factors that probably contributed to this, like his mental health issues, family issues, and other things. But just imagine a 7-track Designer album fully produced by Kanye that released in 2018 alongside the other Kanye projects. I think with something like that, his career would have seen a lot more longevity. Nowadays, Designer is still putting out music, but is definitely struggling. Recently, he got caught exposing himself on an airplane and was arrested. He apologized and said online that he was on some type of meds that caused him to act weird, and that he was very ashamed of his actions. So he admitted himself into a facility for help. So it's pretty sad recently the state that Designer has been in, so hopefully things start looking up for him.
Hopefully.
This month's Foxy Mobile offer is great.
Yeah, unlimited social media and 30 gig of data for...
Now you
That
probably
label really did him dirty, so I don't blame him for leaking it out of spite if he did leak it out of spite. But bro, how things go up from here for him. Good luck to you, mate. Take care of yourself. That's what's important in the day.
remember Kesha from her multiple hit songs, her appearance on Victorious, or her songs on Just Dance. At least that's how I do. But after releasing Timber, it seems like Kesha went under the radar for a while due to multiple issues with her label and her management. So let's check it out. Kesha began her career in 2005 with Kimosabi Records. She was working her way up in the industry by writing songs, providing background vocals, and working on her own music. She got her first taste of fame because of her feature on Flo Rida's song Right Round in 2009. Then she signed to RCA Records and started preparing to release her debut album. The lead single for the album, TikTok, became a huge hit and blew her up into the
that song was
mainstream.
everywhere.
She continued releasing music and had more hits like Blow, Die Young, and her feature on 303's song My First Kiss. Her run from 2010 to 2012 was crazy with a huge album and multiple hit songs. Kesha was on top of the world, but that would change fairly quickly. In 2012, Kesha released her album Warrior, and other than the songs Die Young and Crazy Kids, this album underperformed relative to her last two projects. And the reason for this would become apparent pretty quickly. In 2013,
Dr. Luke,
one of
innit?
Kesha's fans and set up an online petition with the goal to free Kesha from her producer/manager, Dr. Luke. They accused him of hurting her career, and it received over 10,000 signatures. Then, in late 2013, Kesha had a TV documentary series called My Crazy Beautiful Life, in which she revealed she had little creative control over her album, Warrior. She had even tweeted previously about how she was forced to sing the lyrics for the song Die Young. In 2014, Kesha then filed a lawsuit against Dr. Luke, claiming he R-worded her, harassed her, emotionally abused her, and violated California business practices. Now, I've been mentioning Dr. Luke quite a bit just recently, and if you're not familiar with him, he's a very powerful producer and songwriter who has worked on tons of huge songs. He began working with Kesha very early in her career back in 2005 and kind of helped manage her. So Dr. Luke has essentially been with Kesha throughout her entire career. So after she made all these claims in her lawsuit, she then asked the court to break her contract with Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke then followed up with a counter lawsuit for defamation and claimed that Kesha was just lying to get out of her contract. And regardless of whether or not that's true, the fact that this contract seems to be such a big center point in this lawsuit makes it seem to me that this wasn't the greatest contract. This lawsuit lasted a very
Like,
long
what kind
time.
of contract was it? Was it like a, what do they call it? Like a slave contract. Some people have dubbed it. Was it one of those? I don't know. No can be an expert at these kind of things. But regardless, let me continue.
Very
But I heard a lot
complicated for
about this,
many
though.
reasons. And because of this ongoing lawsuit, Kesha hardly released any music in 2014, 15, or 16. The lawsuit was pretty messy too, with tweets from many people involved, leaked emails, tons of drama,
Bro.
and even more lawsuits involving other people. The lawsuit, contract, and poor management severely hurt Kesha's career. This was made especially apparent when her lawyers said she cannot work with music producers, publishers, or record labels to release new music. With no new music to perform, Kesha cannot tour. Off the radio and stage and out of the spotlight, Kesha cannot sell merchandise, receive sponsorships, or get media attention. Her brand value has fallen, and unless the court issues this injunction, Kesha will suffer irreparable harm, plummeting her career past the point of no return. However, despite how much this has hindered her career, it has also been very public, allowing her to get a lot of support from her fans. In 2015, during New York Fashion Week, Kesha wore a dress that said, "You will never own me." When leaving court proceedings, she would have fans standing outside chanting things like "Free Kesha," so it's obvious she had a
This
lot
shit
of
was very
support
sad.
behind her. Kesha also received support from other artists as well, like Taylor Swift, who donated $250,000 to her, and she also saw support from Lady Gaga, Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande, and more. Then in August of 2016, Kesha dropped her lawsuit against Dr. Luke and then turned in 28 songs to her label in preparation for an album. Just to clarify though, there were multiple lawsuits going on at this time, so she was only dropping the lawsuit for the abuse and sexual assault. However, she was not dropping the one where she was trying to get out of the contract. This whole lawsuit situation is very complicated. I'm not sure I fully understand it, so I'll leave a link to a much more in-depth video by a YouTuber named Sloan if you're interested in learning more about the situation in detail. Regardless, in 2017, Kesha came back with a single called Praying and
Oh,
an
that-
album called
that's-
Rainbow. Because of how prominent her
that
case
song.
was, Praying was a huge hit, especially since a lot of the song and the overall album was about her legal battle. The album Rainbow was very successful. It hit #1 on the Billboard 200, and then she began touring again. The hype of this release was huge since she hadn't released in such a long time, and Kesha had a lot of eyes on her because of the lawsuit. But the issues weren't over, as she was still working with Dr. Luke and the same label. They continued until just recently this year, and while she was still putting out music, it severely harmed her career, just as her lawyer predicted. The numbers on her last 2 albums dropped drastically, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was in part caused by issues with her label and management. The lawsuit was settled
that
recently
album
with
was her
Kesha
lowest?
saying, "Only God knows what happened that night. As I always said, I cannot recount everything that happened. I am looking forward to closing the door on this chapter of my life and beginning a new one. I wish nothing but peace to all parties involved." So we don't know the exact details of the case or how it ended, but in the end, it doesn't really look like there was a single winner. I imagine it's got to be really tough while working with the man you are suing under the contract you were trying to get out of, so it seemed like a really bad situation.
The whole situation was sad.
TLC is a very popular and very successful group who at the height of their career had to file for bankruptcy. TLC is a group that was founded in 1990 by a producer named Ian Burke and an artist named Crystal Jones. After recruiting Tion Watkins and Lisa Lopez, the group changed their name from Second Nature to TLC, an acronym for Tion, Lisa, and Crystal. Not too long after forming the group, Crystal left and was replaced by Rosanda Thomas. In 1991, they signed to Pepitone Records and were later signed to LaFace Records, with their music being distributed by Arista Records. The following year, they released their debut album On the TLC Tip, and it became a huge success. Critics loved the album, and they went 4 times platinum. They had 3 top 10 singles on the Billboard 100 and made an excellent debut in the industry. TLC embarked on their first national tour, opening for MC Hammer, which is when many people learned that T-Boz had sickle cell anemia, which would eventually lead to a lot of expensive hospital bills. That may seem irrelevant, but that will come into play later. Following the tour, after receiving a small amount of monetary compensation, TLC decided they didn't want Pebbles Reed as their manager anymore because they wanted more control over their careers. They were released from their management deal and thought that this would fix all of their problems, but they were still signed to these same labels, which would eventually become a big issue. Another factor that would eventually play a big role in their financial struggles is when Left Eye was charged with first-degree
Oh,
arson.
she when she burnt that house down.
And they were allegedly in a violent relationship, and she had also been battling alcoholism. These two things clearly aren't a good combination, and after one argument, she threw his new shoes into a bathtub, dumped some lighter fluid on them, and then set them on fire. And this obviously was not a good idea, as the house caught fire, causing her to be arrested, charged with arson, sentenced to 5 years probation, and she had to pay a ton of money with insurance. So keep these incidents in mind going forward. Following all this, TLC was gearing up to release their sophomore album, Crazy Sexy Cool. This album was an even bigger success than their first album, selling over 14 million copies worldwide, being ranked in Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list, and peaking at number 3 on the Billboard 200. They won an MTV Music Video Award and 2 Grammys that year as well. Billboard also named TLC as the Artist of the Year in the 1996 Billboard Music Awards. But after they won their Grammy Awards, TLC broke some very surprising news to their fans in their Grammy speech.
We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be, and
Damn.
we're not like trying to be a sad story. If that was the case,
Talk about keeping it real.
Talk show talking about how broke we are. We haven't done that. I know it's hard to believe because we've sold so many albums, but it is possible. That's the deal here.
July 3rd of 1995, TLC filed for bankruptcy and declared that they were in $3.5 million of debt. They said that the label was charging them for all of their expenses like travel, hotels, marketing, videos, food, clothing, recording, managers, lawyers, producers, and everything else you can imagine. On top of that, Left Eye still had to pay the insurance money back, and T-Boz had a lot of medical payments because of her sickle cell. It was revealed that back in 1991, TLC wanted to renegotiate their contract with LaFace Records, but it was denied. The group revealed some of the details of how much money they were making, claiming they only made 50 cents per song and then had to split it 3 ways.
Every time an album gets sold, TLC gets 56 cents. And in the record business, we pay all costs back to the record company.
Following all of their complaints and some lawsuits that were going on behind the scenes, TLC finally had their contract with LaFace Records renegotiated. Although by that time, a good bit of financial damage had been done. Supposedly, they even held the label exec at gunpoint, which is pretty crazy. A YouTube channel by the name Music Money Makeover Show went into extreme detail about TLC's deal and revealed that, based on all of the available information, they were being screwed over by the label from the moment they signed. We don't have the exact numbers, as Left Eye and T-Boz gave out different numbers in interviews, but T-Boz claims that they made even less than what Left Eye claimed. Following all of the financial turmoil, TLC still got back together to work on their 3rd album. With a renegotiated contract, things were looking good. However, there was a feud with the main producer of TLC, Dallas Austin, and some of the members, so the album was delayed. But they eventually got it sorted out and released their third album, Fan Mail, in 1999. It was another huge success, but then there began more drama within the group, with Left Eye challenging the other members to each release an album and see whose performs the best, since she was upset she wasn't able to have as many contributions to the TLC songs. They patched things up though, which was fortunate because a few years later, Left Eye would pass away in a car crash. This severely damaged the surviving members' mental health, understandably so. So after finishing their fourth studio album that was in the works, T-Boz and Chili announced an indefinite hiatus. Aside from a few collaborations, compilation albums, live shows, and a reality TV show, TLC stopped releasing music for quite a while. So while I don't think their financial issues completely ruined their career, I do think it definitely caused some harm, especially in the 90s and possibly even to this day. Obviously, we don't know how much money's in their bank accounts, but the reason I figured they may still have some issues to this day is because in 2015, they started a Kickstarter campaign with the goal of $150,000 so that they could release a new album. Tons of fans and other celebrities pitched in though, and they raised over $400,000. Following that, they released their self-titled album and returned from their hiatus. But I'm gonna guess if they never had those issues with their label back in the 90s, they wouldn't have had to fund their new album with a Kickstarter campaign. So obviously, TLC's career was very successful commercially, but unfortunately they experienced a ton of financial issues in the background that caused them a lot of harm. Anyways, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a...
Damn, I enjoyed the video. I didn't know that was the TLC one. Imagine that. Having like the best album of all time and selling loads and still being broke. That's mad to me. Horror Story, read your contracts. Get a lawyer that could go through it with you to make sure you're not getting done dirty by the label. I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying, take a lesson. Yeah, rest in peace, Left Eye. But damn, all these people, these labels really done these people dirty. But obviously they're not the only ones that the labels have done dirty. I'm sure there's more out there. Like I swear I don't know how real the Behind the Music documentary thing was, but even Tony Braxton also ended up having to file for bankruptcy at some point. Peak times out here. Anyways, I'm trying to comment on people saying right now. Someone commented, props to designer. Not only did he get to put out the record they were shelving, but he got the release he wanted. That's respect. Yeah, I agree. I didn't know that designer also was done dirty by his label. But damn. Hopefully he's doing better these days. Hopefully he's in a better place mentally and is pumping out good music. Anyways, let me continue. Someone commented, I feel so bad for Kesha. Last I looked at that situation up, she was still fighting Dr. Luke and was still on the contract. She deserves so much more. She had so much talent and just threw it away because of the abuse. So sad. Yeah, that shit was very, very sad though. But like, I heard the Warrior album. Curiosity. This was some years ago. This was like 2017, 2018. There were good songs on it though, mind you. That was like Thinking of You, Dayoung obviously. Was it Gold Trans Am? I had the deluxe edition of it. That was a good album. Those are the highlights on that album, but yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. But yeah, that shit's sad though. And I heard Gag Order though. Gag Order, I thought it was a good album. I didn't know that was her lowest one though. Makes sense though after all of this whole court stuff and all that. Yes, someone commented, these horror stories are pretty terrifying. The ways that people will use and abuse you for cash and clout are insane. Having trusted loved ones is such a blessing in that environment. Yes, most definitely, I agree. In Hollywood, the music industry, acting, all that, they'll chew you up and spit you out if you're not careful. You know, someone commented, I still listen to a bunch of Kesha's songs when I'm in the mood for pop music. Fair enough, but not the really like. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I'm just going to continue and then it'll come up to me. And when TLC dropped that label in 1999, I listened to the CD non-stop. My friends still listen to it. They were playing it in their car as they were dropping me off at the station. I don't blame them though. Like I say, some of the songs from back in the 90s and 2000s don't hold a candle to the ones out now, honestly. Anyway, non-stop for months and months. It was the soundtrack of my life when I was 13. And as an H3 fan, I love your shirt. God, obviously there's more artists that has happened to. I saw it happened to Fifth Harmony as well. Like they're in a bad contract and all that. Someone called it, so basically all artists under RCA. Oh, this comment, I was right then. Tiana Taylor and Big Sean also had crazy issues with good music. Very bad boy records of Kanye and Push. bro. So I wasn't bugging. It was good music that Tiana Taylor was under. Bro, how sad. Thing is, right, when you listen to some of the old songs of Kesha's and all that, and the songs that have Dr. Luke as a producer on, I feel guilty for even listening to them. Some of them are good though. Like, I listened to a few songs from the Best Damn Thing. I feel guilty for doing so. And someone commented, well, Kesha's recent projects are so good. She's not as popular, but it's pretty obvious she has more artistic freedom now. Yeah, that's more evident now. Now, instead of all these over-the-top auto-tuned songs she's put out with back in the day, which I'm not even gonna hate on, because some of them are pretty good. Like Hungover. Like Hungover, Blow, Sleazy. But to be honest with you, I like more like, I like Let 'Em Talk more. Like Let 'Em Talk and songs like that more. Like Let 'Em Talk, Thinking of You. Songs like that from her I like more than anything. Ones that are more guitar in, not these ones that are auto-tuned to shit. But yeah. Interesting vid though. If he does a part 2 of this video, then maybe I'll give it a watch. You never know. But yeah, I'm head out. Go vid though. Okay, so that's it for this video. Like, subscribe if you want. I post if whenever I feel like it, and I'll see you next one. Bye.